Thank you for joining. Welcome to the Forge Partner Talks series. This week, our episode focuses on the digital buying experience. I'm Sanjana Chand. I'm the Forge Developer Marketing Manager. At the end of today's panel, I'll be relaying the questions you submit, so please feel free to ask any questions you like under the Q&A tab. The session will also be recorded and sent out after this webinar. Today's session is hosted by Emily Sherbensky. I'll let her introduce the panelists and the webinar.
Thanks, Sanjana. So good morning, good afternoon. Thanks again for joining us. Sanjana mentioned, my name is Emily Sherbensky and I lead the Forge marketing team at Autodesk. And today's topic is on the digital buying experience. So I think we all know that the way people are buying products has changed and e-commerce is the new norm. So I myself actually haven't been to a physical brick and mortar store in 5 months, which is crazy. But you know, in the current climate, this is what's happening. And we're seeing all shopping going online. And it's not just a digital buying experience. We're really seeing online shopping become personalized, purely digital conversations that are constantly being optimized as well. Not just in the B2C markets, but also in B2B. So today we have 2 companies joining us who have used Forge to create innovative digital buying experiences for their customers. So first we have Daniel Marcus, who's coming to us from CADcraft. Daniel, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and your company?
Yes, thank you, Emily, for having us. Really fun to be part of this. My name is Daniel Marcus, working as a key account manager at CADcraft. We are an Autodesk reseller. I've been working with Autodesk for, I think, 30 years right now.
Wow.
So.
Great. And then we also have Chris Atchison. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself and CADshare?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emily, and thanks for inviting us along. So my name is Chris Atchison. I'm the CEO at CADshare. We're a UK-based company focused on developing applications for the aftermarket. And the first product that we've really focused on is the digital buying experience for spare parts.
Great. All right, so I'm going to spend some time talking to each of our panelists a little bit more in depth, and I'd like to kick off with Daniel and jump into CADcraft a little bit. So Daniel, you mentioned that CADcraft does custom solutions for customers, has done a lot of work with Autodesk products, and you guys actually just recently became a Forge certified systems integrator as well. So welcome to that program.
Thank you.
And today you're going to share a digital buying experience that you actually created for a customer. So can you start with telling us who that customer is and what their needs were that prompted this application?
As you said before, Emily, I think the business to business is moving more to a business to consumer model, actually, that you want to buy anywhere, anytime. You don't want to sit and wait until a sales contact you back from an email or a phone call. So you need to get it on your hands directly. That's what we see more and more. And Swedberg is more like a consumer product, making bathroom interior. And so that's more like a typical business to consumer. But we see this in many cases, that demand is to go that way, that you have the 24/7, you have a customer portal that you can log into and you can explore the products, you can configure your products and so on. And I think the important is the distinction here that's sometimes hard to describe is you can have a sales configurator that looks nice, you can do your configuration, you get a visual idea around product, but with Forge, you can actually then take it to the next step automatically. So you actually can use Forge to generate all the production data needed. So you can actually have an unbroken link, so to speak. So that's very interesting.
Awesome. You want to show us what it looks like? Maybe walk us through a demo?
Yeah, I will do that. Let's see.
And Swedberg is also based in the Nordics, is that correct?
That's correct. So sorry, I missed that. CADcraft is a Swedish reseller, and Swedberg is the main market is in the Nordics. Okay. So Swedbergs are then manufacturing bathroom interior. And one part of this are shower cells or shower glazing, so to speak. And so we have here on the screen logged into there, or sorry, not logged in. Yeah, it's actually open to try for anyone. So go to their homepage, and they have something called Svedbergs Duschstudio. Sorry for being in Swedish, but it's to actually then to configure a shower. And these are all actually customized made. So normally, or before this configured, it was a reseller who sat down with the customer and tried to describe how they wanted the shower walls, the sizes, the type of glazing, knobs, and so on and so on. So instead for doing that manually, they now can go into the homepage, and you can do that as an end customer if you want to. Then you can configure, you pick your and choose, and here we have the visual effect of the WebGL engine that also Forge Viewer is based on. So very fast compared to a CAD engine, so you can just pick and choose what you want, and it immediately updates. That's the strong thing with WebGL technology. So you can directly see, and you make your customized configuration on the sizes and the appearance. And if you're a reseller, you can actually then, you're already logged in, so you get a summary of what you have configured. You will have the items, and also when you click the button for generating the data, Svedbergs can then take out all the production data for the glazing, for the profiles, and so on. So let's see when we let then Forge at the backend produce all this data. In this case, we see then drawings. This is also based on actually on Inventor and iLogic that is published to Forge. So we immediately get all exact drawings. And you can imagine before then when you need to go back and forth to get the right drawings, and you need to involve engineering and a lot of manual work back and forth, that's now been done totally automatically. So you reduce the risk of errors from manual typing errors. You increase the value for the end customer as well as for the reseller. They get the price, they get the right products directly. So this is one nice example of how we move the configure into the web, and at the back end we use Forge then to produce all the production data.
So you mentioned it's direct to consumer, but resellers are also using this. Are resellers collecting information from end customers? How does that work?
Right. So it could be that the customer at home sits to configure how they want it to look like, but before they place the order, they want to confirm by the reseller. The reseller have a login and can then generate the drawings, get them back to the customer. The customer can display the drawings and say, okay, that's fine, that's the right measurement, and so on. And from there, the reseller direct can then push it into Svedbergs ERP, so they can generate all the production data and start manufacturing.
Okay. And then what were the biggest challenges as you went to actually implement this application for the customer?
Yeah, I think one thing is to get everyone to understand that it's a whole process. It's about not only to have a nice looking configured at the homepage, but also have the backend working properly. So you get all data automatically transferred downstream. So you have the drawings right and everything in order. And that's sometimes a little bit hard to everyone to understand within the management team and so on. That you need to have a good idea of the process, and also to standardize what is a configurable product, and when do we hand over for an, say to speak, engineering to order product. So I think in many of those cases, the discussion around standardization is very important. So where do we draw the line between configure to order on the web, and where do we move on to engineering to order? And in this case, let's say that they want a different type of glazing with something else. The engineering can actually then pull out the data from Forge and continue to work with it in their CAD environment.
Okay. And when you're talking about, when you're talking about engineering to order and the data component, How does Forge come in there? How has Forge helped you kind of connect the data on the back end?
The models get unique numbers. So when the reseller starts to bring in the values, and we get all the data, and it's then stored in Forge, then we can have a unique traceability and get in those cases that we need some kind of engineering to order. The data is open to download for the on-premise local clients to continue to work on it. So it's a very nice workflow.
Okay, great. And you mentioned having a second customer example you wanted to share as well?
Yes, exactly. And that's also a very nice one.
Great.
Let's see. Can you see my screen?
You can.
So this is a total different kind of company, Aquet, making equipment for demolition for old concrete. So in this case, they had a new product they want to launch on the market, but unfortunately, the COVID and Corona come across, and they couldn't have any physical meetings with the resellers. So they start wondering, can we do some kind of virtual product launch instead? So on their homepage, they have something called Aqua Power Pack. That's the new product. And then the reseller or even the end customer can go in and explore the new product, the new Power Pack. So this is based on Forge Viewer, actually. So with the Forge Viewer, I can pause here. We actually have reading the whole inventor model. It's quite heavy inventor model, but with the Forge Viewer, it makes it very easy. So you can explore different options on the Power Pack. So you actually then choose, in this count, they want to see it in this way, the mounted engine and pump, how that works. So you can explore the product very good. And here you can also then choose different type of options or equipment that you want to have. And this was made quite in, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks, because it was very time pressure. They had to launch this in end of May, and the COVID situation made this physically impossible. But now we solved it with the Forge platform and the digital models. So it was a really success, actually. So you can spin around, explore, make your options, and in the end, you can continue. You can actually ask for a quote on that sort of that equipment you have chosen in the configurator. So this is just an easy example to make something very selling. And the next step at Aquet is to make this more like a configurator, a real configurator. But yeah, you can achieve very, very much in short time by using the web, and in this case, then the Forge web viewer.
Yeah, I really like this example of how a customer had to pivot really quickly in this current environment and move to something digital that they hadn't planned. And
exactly.
4 to 5 weeks is really short time frame to get this up and running. When they came to you, did they have an idea of what they wanted, or did you help them figure that out? And how did you know Forge was the right tool to use here?
So we discussed together. They were actually looking at other solutions first, but it was they asked actually their partner for making their homepage, but they didn't have any clue how to make this with 3D content, and they started looking on pictures. But they wanted to have a more modern look and feel that you actually can spin around, turn around, and play around with this. So this is actually also open for anyone to test out if you want to. It's on their homepage. So together we discussed if the Forge Viewer could be something, and we will show them just an example. Just uploaded one of their CAD models. They were really excited and said, "Oh, that's what we want." And then we added menus just for visualize and zoom in, zoom out, and quite easy actually. So, but it makes a big adding a big value to the customer.
Yeah, and so have they seen the value come from it? How are they doing? in terms
Yeah,
of?
they were. I think they got really good feedback from their resellers, and now the resellers want more, of course. So they're planning on publishing more models, and also the resellers want to have more of a configurable situation. Now we're just unhiding the different options. Now they want to have more like a configurable solution. So that's the next step.
Great. All right, and then last question before we move over to Chris. I'm curious what you guys are planning next. Are you seeing a lot more customers come to you with these types of problems? Are you expanding on these solutions?
Absolutely. I think this is right on time. And if you say something positive with the COVID situation is that this is actually accelerating this kind of discussions at our customers. They are looking for sales automation and when they can use that data downstream, that's even better. So in Swedberg's case, it's about a nice sell tool, but also to make production data. And we see a lot of this coming up now. So it's really exciting, I think.
Great.
So moving this into the web, thanks to Forge, I think that's really nice.
It's good to hear. All right. Okay, so let's, thank you for sharing, Daniel. Let's move over to Chris for a little while. And Chris, this is a very different angle talking to you because your company is really based on a digital buying experience, right?
Yeah, right. So we're a product company. We're not a service provider. So we have our product, which is for OEMs, and typically our customers would be construction equipment, mining equipment, any sort of expensive piece of equipment that works in some sort of process that needs to be kept maintained. And fundamentally, the two challenges that we solve really for customers are one, the customer buying experience, and making that more like a B2C type experience. You know, we're all used to things working fast until you go and try and buy spare parts for your piece of equipment, and it's back to phone, it's back to fax, it's back to PDF drawings. So we transform all that, and then at the same time we make it much easier. So that helps everything for the their customer, but at the same time we make everything much more efficient for the OEM to create, manage and maintain all that data and distribute it among their customers. Great.
So it's really addressing the aftermarket. I think that's even in your logo, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and this was a need that you saw in the market and created a solution to address. When you started creating the solution, did you start with the idea of Forge in mind to use, or did that come down the road as you were trying to figure out what tools?
No, we really did. I suppose the genesis of the solution came when I first saw 3D used in a web browser, and then very quickly that transitioned on, well, Forge obviously can do that with CAD models. And to me, using existing engineering assets in a purchasing process saves a whole lot of time, but also makes it much more intuitive for the end user.
And do you want to share a demo so we can see what that experience is like?
Yeah, I'll do a quick demo here of the customer side. So this is a live demo, so hopefully it all works well. Should do. Haven't had any problems yet. But I've logged in as a customer, so not our customer, but their customer or their dealers. And the purpose here is for them to identify and order parts. So as soon as they come in, it's behind a login, so we know exactly who they are. So they only get access to the parts, to the data that they need to see. And they can go straight in and look at data. They can manage their orders, or they can also just do a direct part search and pop stuff into their basket. But I suppose the most interesting thing here is how we use Forge around the 3D. So we allow the manufacturer to upload their 3D CAD models, and the beauty of Forge is it allows us to support it pretty much any CAD package. So, you know, we have customers that use Inventor, Plenty of Inventor, SolidWorks, Solid Edge, whatever that may be. They upload their models into our system. We extract data. We combine that with master parts records that we would typically get from an ERP system, and then allows them to create these beautiful experiences. So the customer can rotate and zoom in, and at any point they can select a part, and they'll get the information up here. So they'll get a part number, they'll get a description, they'll get stock, and we can, you know, hook this up to ERP so they can get instant stock level, they can get an instant price and create an instant order. Or we can just have it, you know, with an order, an inquiry, a quotation workflow. It's all feasible, and they can use the tabs on the side here to navigate down into more detail. So you can see it's a very intuitive and easy way for a customer to be able to identify parts. It's fully touch enabled, so you can pull this up on your iPad, or even on your phone, and just, you know, spin it around, zoom in and touch. And then on top of that, we ought to add all the other features that you'd expect in a parts buying application. So this part here, for example, say you're out on site and this pallet, this is a spray bar, so there's usually a hose connected here. This little pipe's cracked, needs replaced. We can either buy that individually, but I can also see, oh, that's available as an assembly. And look, oh, I can buy the whole thing. And as a maintenance guy, that's going to save me a lot of time. So I'll buy that pre-assembled and just prop that. We can also create kits. So when I select this part, I can buy that individually, but I can also see it's part of a kit. I can see what's in that kit, and I can add all those parts into the basket, etc. So really fast, really efficient. Once you've filled your basket, you just go in, boom, 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 and you can create the order, and that goes through to the customer. So that's that in a nutshell. At a high level, is the product. And there's a lot of stuff on the manufacturer side that allows them to create all this content in the first place.
Yeah, so when the customer kind of clicks through, creates their basket, and submits their order, it goes directly to that manufacturer, who is other customer, if you will, right?
Yeah, so our customer is the manufacturer. Yeah, so our platform connects them with their own customers or their dealer network.
Okay, and then so it's interesting that you're profiling users as they come in, so you know what manufacturers you're routing them to based on the equipment that they have and that they might be looking to replace. Is that correct?
That's right. So a lot of our customers are characterized by customization. You know, some it may just be there's maybe 10 different options that you can have in that machine, where others it can be a completely bespoke piece of equipment for that customer. So the ability to be able to take that data that's created during the engineering process anyway and just put it into our platform. It's ready to go in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on the complexity of the plant. And you know, you have the comfort that the customer is seeing the right data. Because if you're giving them the ability to order themselves, you got to make sure that it's right, or everything just falls over.
Yeah, that's really, it's a prime example of that personalized experience that we're just seeing pop up so often in the market now, in this online experience for users, where they come in and they want you to know what they want.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're scared that you know what they want, but they are also really excited at the ease of just kind of getting in there and you know, making it a simple process.
Yeah, and that's one of the, you know, that was one of the biggest challenges that we have had to overcome. Because if you think about, if you're buying spare parts, like if you talk about e-commerce, if I want to buy a shirt, I'll go and do, it's at the start of that journey, I could buy any shirt in the whole world, and it's all about narrowing it down to one shirt. You know, I'll select color, size, brand, etc. With spare parts, it's the opposite way around. So at the start of the process, there's one single part, or, you know, I need to get this exact thing, and no other thing will do. So it kind of flips that whole process on its head, and that's been the challenge for us, being able to make that happen seamlessly.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then on the manufacturer side, I know, because I've seen from some of your customer videos how the benefits that your customers are finding, but can you summarize what the benefits are for the manufacturers with this platform experience?
Yeah, so I mean, the primary thing is they're transforming that customer experience, and that helps with their customer relations, it helps with their brand perception, etc. But also a significant value add for them is because we're dealing with data in one you know in one area in the cloud, we can connect different types of data. So we have a master parts record. Whenever the customer uploads the model, we connect the items in the model to your master parts record, which means we can automate a lot of stuff. So some of the features you saw there, like kits and options and all that sort of stuff, is created the minute that model is uploaded. There's no other work that needs to be done by the manufacturer. So it takes what can used to take between 2-3 weeks to create spare parts documentation down to 30 minutes up to 3 hours maybe on a really big model. And like Daniel said, Forge can handle large models really well. So it just makes that whole process for them more efficient as well as more accurate. There's less errors. They're getting their parts out the door faster.
And how much faster is the process for your manufacturers now to get onboarded, kind of time start to finish?
Yeah, so the onboarding process probably takes about 2 weeks to get all their ERP data in there. So we can integrate with ERP systems, or we can just take a data dump, and so we have part descriptions in different languages, linked to models, etc. That can take up to 2 weeks. And once that's done, really, it's just uploading the models and releasing that content, which, like I say, it's minutes, it's not days. So really fast deployment. And that's, the system can actually be used without ERP system data as well. It just gets slightly less functionality. So we've had some customers that, we have one customer we onboarded last month, and within 2 weeks, they had 150 products up and released on the system. So agricultural equipment. So, they weren't simple pieces of equipment, but they had 2 engineers just sit there for 2 weeks and 140 models up there.
Yeah. There is no simple with these large complex equipment parts. Okay. And then in terms of growth, I mean, you mentioned your customer coming on recently. I'm curious, have you seen more uptake since this whole COVID situation, this movement towards getting online and trying to do things more digitally versus in person?
Absolutely. So I'd kind of noticed, in the 6 months before COVID came along, I noticed a change where more companies were investigating. COVID has just accelerated that, where, certainly in the UK and I think throughout Europe, manufacturers had to shut down their plants. Their staff couldn't get in. They were working from home. The only thing that they had to keep doing was continuity of spare parts for their own customers. And it was a nightmare for a lot of them because they can't get access to the data, which typically is at the factory, et cetera. So as well as wanting their customers to be able to order online, as a result of COVID, it's just as well, geez, we need to get better having our data in one place. It can be accessed from anywhere by our engineer at home, by the spare parts guy in the factory, or in the depot, wherever that may be. So it's definitely accelerated.
Okay. Yeah, I can only imagine. And then looking down the road for CADshare, what's coming next? What projects are you working on?
Yeah, so we still have a little bit to do on the spare parts and automation. We want to really, the holy grail for us is to have this whole system automated, where you've got Inventor or whatever CAD package it is through the PLM and the R system into the ERP, and it just takes over fully automated. But we're also widening our scope into the broader aftermarket. So looking at our next big feature, I think, will be customer support portal. So you can bring your customer into this viewer and go through the model with them, show them how to take things apart, in what order, and build them up again in a real live interactive session. And just making us more central to the aftermarket process.
Great. Sounds good. Okay, so moving to questions for both of you, a little bit more general, but I'm curious, what advice you might have for partners out there who are, or customers who are looking at implementing or building their own digital buying experience.
I can start, Emily. I think it's important to pick the right products and make it in smaller steps, like we see with Acquaet. More like you can explore the product, you can highlight some functions, you can do some choices, and then you can ask for a quote. So that's quite an easy step to start with, just to get learning how it works. And then you can add more functions in more products, and you can add design automation with configurable products and so on. I think just starting, as Chris mentioned, to have some kind of customer portal, I think that brings really value, that you can 24/7 order spare parts, or you can configure new products, or you can explore new functionalities, or you can train technical people on the product and so on. So I think start small. It's not a big step, and it's no big investment, because I think if you use Forge, is quite affordable. So, and it's fast. So I think it was a missing link before. We did get a lot of questions around how can we publish our CAD data into the cloud. And we had the Configure 360, the old platform, but it had some limitations. So I think it's really opening up for just go out and start somewhere. You can expand this, but again, it's important to pick the right product, so you don't do a huge step the first. Then it's getting complicated if you want to connect to ERP and everything in one shot.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Starting small, that applies to any big overwhelming project, right? Start somewhere. Yeah, great. Chris, did you have anything to add on that?
Just to say, I fully agree with Daniel. I mean, as he showed with the Aquajet stuff going live so quickly. Some of the feedback that I regularly get from customers or prospects during the sales cycle is, you know, how quickly the whole system can be deployed, and you know, they can start getting value out of it really, really quickly. And that's a mindset change from them who are used to desktop software and engineering, just traditional engineering software, which is going to cost us $500,000 to put this in. It's going to take 6 weeks to train. It's going to da. And if you start small, like Daniel says, you can really start getting value very quickly and just continue on that path. And every time you do something small, you'll also learn from that. And you know, it might inform what you do next, and you'll end up with a much better end product.
Yeah. Okay, and then again to both of you. So for our customers who have already started or have a digital buying experience, what are you guys seeing as the next big opportunities in this space? What are you guys seeing as the big trends coming that we should be aware of as we're planning to, you know, continually optimize, right? Our users are getting used to this personalization. They're getting used to the ease of going in and, you know, having these easy transactions. So how do we continue to be better? What do we need to be aware of?
Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really see the value of, perhaps digital thread is the right way to talk about it. But, you know, the example that Daniel showed, the configurator, you know, having that something like that all the way through to our product in the aftermarket, where it's the same data is created right at the start of the process. Same data goes to manufacturing, the same data flows through, and the same data ends up that you're buying your spare parts and you're creating your maintenance instructions from. That is a trend I'm seeing, and you know, huge value from it if that can be, well, it can be done. It's all about the data. It's all about getting the data right, and you know, making sure that it's accurate in the first place. And then I wonder for us as well about the place of AR and VR in the future in this. I don't have any answers. I know a lot of our customers mention it and talk about it, but it's very much at the exploratory stage. No one is quite sure how or where the value will come from that, but it feels intuitive that sometime someone's going to come up with something that creates a lot of value from that technology.
Yes, I agree, Chris. We have also been thinking around with VR. We tested something. It's the technology is there, but to find the right usage, I think for training or for maintenance, service, and so on, helping the customer on site, but from remote, I think that's interesting. And also, I want to it's not a trend, but I think just take care of your data is something that we, since we're working a lot with PDM and ERP integration, I think it's kind of boring, but it's really important that you have correct data all the way so that you can have that A to Z experience. So that's something we talk about a lot with our customers, that you need to take care of your data and to keep it up to date, and to put in that effort to do that work. Then it will help so much in the journey forward.
Yeah, it's a valid point. It's also a challenge, right? Are there ways to think about data moving forward and this integration aspect?
I think, again, start with the right type of products. Normally have a bunch of legacy products that's perhaps not worth to do it. It's too much job. And start with the right products, thinking and in right modules, standardize, and it will take hard work. But when you've done that, you can use all these exciting tools much easier. But because it's easy to do a nice visual experience, but if you don't have the backbone or the it's just a nice tool. So you need to have the data in place, and I think that's something you work a lot with, Chris. For it's not just a visual tool; it's to have the correct data all the way.
Yeah, that was the biggest learning that I have gone through in this process. Was, the 3D, the visualization stuff is brilliant, but it's only great if the data is correct in the first place. And often we find it's a cultural thing, whether a company is really focused, because the engineering data, some companies will get it to a certain stage, and then there'll be other processes tacked on to make sure that what gets to the shop floor works. Or other companies will just make sure that it's really, everything's modeled to the nth degree. And there's a wide variation in that. And we've had to make our product very flexible to be able to cope with both, anywhere within that spectrum.
Yeah. Okay. And then last question for me, and I'm just curious, because I know, Chris, you mentioned, one of the impetuses for starting your company was around seeing this potential with the 3D modeling. Are there really great customer or user experiences out there, digital buying experiences, that have inspired you guys? And if so, can you share what they are?
I think when oh, sorry, Chris.
No, Daniel, your turn. You go ahead.
Okay. Thanks. Actually, I know the CEO for Acquet. I think he had some ideas when he looked to how Apple introduced their Power Book on a really nice way to get to learn the product virtual. So I think he got some ideas, but with a total different budget than Apple. So you can, I think, you can achieve really much today with less money than people believe. It's not that expensive, actually, and so that's something that if you do it right, I think very positive around it. That's really easy to get started.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say, and I know it's a cliche, but you can't really talk about purchasing without mentioning e-commerce, without mentioning Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's not really you know, what they brought to it was speed and ease. You know, if you forget about the design or anything like that, just the workflow is very quick and easy, and that's changed expectations for everybody. And that's kind of, I always sort of think about Amazon when we're working on our product. Well, how do we, not everything they do is suitable for us, but how do we keep that speed and ease and accuracy in our product for this more complex situation or differently complex situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still astounded. I recently searched for a furnace filter on Amazon, and I'm seeing for the very first time in my life furnace filter TV commercials come up, and I don't know how they're even linked. So yeah, I think that, you know, Amazon's leading the way in a lot of these things. But okay, that's enough for me. We can move over to some attendee questions. Sanjana, do you want to join us and share what's coming in?
Sure. So we do have a few questions, and it sounds like Chris may have answered this one already from Matthew, but I wanted to make sure to ask it just in case there's more detail either of you can add. Does the configurator work by suppressing and unsuppressing items, or does it dynamically load models into the viewer?
Probably for you, Daniel, that one.
It's in this case, it's only actually suppressing. Just we sort of hide and unhide, so to speak. So that's the beauty of the Forge View. It can handle a lot of data, so you don't need to dynamically load in the data in this case.
Great. I think you could also take this one. What do you use for managing the inventor, and how do you connect to ERP?
So in Svedberg's case, they're using Inventor for the design department, and for the design automation in Forge, we're using embedded with iLogic. iLogic is a rule-based engine within Inventor, so it's actually the same. You can use that engine at the client or at Forge. So when you get back the data, it depends on if it's generating new items or is it actually only reusing items. And I'm not sure how they're doing that at Svedbergs, but in many cases you're actually then importing that data into the ERP system for execution later on.
Okay. Here's another. Do you offer customized solutions per customer, or do you provide a template that the customer would then further customize?
Is that for you, Chris, perhaps?
Yeah, so we have a product that we white label, so it comes in, it gets branded as per the customer, custom URL, custom branding, and we have fairly flexible architecture in there to allow us to configure it to suit most needs.
I think if we compare to Configure 360, the old technology before Forge, so to speak, I think there is a template now for that will help the customers to build an easy configurator with if you have made an inventor model with iLogic use, you can publish it to Forge using this template, get something that's easy to get up and running in just a few hours.
Are you guys seeing any kind of potential integrations with third-party technology or partnerships down the road?
Yeah, we are. I mean, that the beauty of being in the cloud and having APIs is we can integrate, you know, with as many things as we see fit to. So we've done some work on IoT, you know, and sort of closing the loop. So a sensor in a machine sends out a warning. Yeah, typically that's all you get. You get this machine, this bearing is hot, or you know, whatever it may be. By integrating with our system, one, we could visually show the customer where that is in the model, but two, we can also show them what parts they need to replace that and how to replace it. We're also we're in discussions with a customer at the minute about putting part of our application into an existing e-commerce site. So their site's more a B2C type site, which is ours is a tool. Theirs is a website, which is more Amazon-esque. So it's putting some of our functionality in theirs, and we'll be integrating with their e-commerce suite. So there's plenty of opportunity, I think, for future value.
Great. And then one thing we didn't also touch on is around the 24/7 approach to customers. So, and this might be more for you, Chris, but how do you guys handle just constantly being available for support as this buying experience is global and around the clock?
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to really worry about that because there's two people we support. There's our customer, the OEM, but then there's their customers who can be a very different type of user, type of person. But we have support numbers, we have support email, we have support chat, and we just sort of manage it. We don't tend to get a lot of support requests. Is the honest answer, in that we spend time with our customer onboarding them. In the first two to 4 weeks, we really take them through that, make sure that everything's working really well. And then after that, the software, our platform just works. Credit to our tech team, but it's very rare. The sort of support requests that we get are, can you reset my password? Yeah, here it is. There's a button here to do it. It's really simple stuff. All the what I would have thought was the complex stuff, the Forge, the visualization and the data all behind it, it just all works really well. So we manage.
Anjana, do you want to? All right, I can read. I got the question open. We got another one from the audience around how many of the OEM customers are ordering parts directly from the factory floor next to the real part using your platform via mobile phone, tablet? Is the first part of that question.
Yeah, so a lot of them would be, a lot of our customers would be, construction equipment or mining. So it's they're out on site somewhere in a dirty environment. Sometimes they may not even have access to the internet. So we have an offline mode in the tablet, but that would be our fairly regular use case. The other use case would be where it's a centralized maintenance department where they're sitting in a factory and they can use a laptop, a PC to do that. Interest in AR options linked to overlay, and yes, absolutely. So one thing that would be interesting is to be able to overlay that data onto the model and show exactly where, I think this is what you're talking about, but show exactly, trended data over the model on very, visual, specifically addressed parts. I think that's something we'll explore in the future.
Yeah, and touched on the second part there with the AR options potentially down the road, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else that you guys that we didn't touch on that you think is important on this topic to share? Any other kind of challenges or lessons learned as you've built out your very successful digital buying experiences yourselves?
As we said before, I think it's important to start somewhere, start small, start with the right type of products, and engage some end customers early to get understanding of their needs and leading with good examples. And I think many of the customers has tried this kind of solutions for say 5 to 10 years back, and it's often been very hard, very difficult, and I think that's something that we need to learn the customers that the technology is much more easier and affordable now and what it used to be.
Yeah. And you're available to help too as a systems integrator. Of
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just make sure, always have the customer, the end user in mind for the buying experience. A lot when we go in and start talking to, you know, OEMs, they tend to focus a lot on the challenges that they have. And it's typically, we've got lots of data spread around everywhere and we've got to bring all this together. And they're focused on the challenge, which absolutely is valid and has to be overcome. But what they tend not to focus on as much is the customer. You know, what effect is all that, the challenge that you're having on your customer, and never forget about those guys, because they're the ones that have to use, you know, in our case, the ones that are using the application every day. And that can sometimes be a mindset change, and particularly if you're dealing with engineering data from an engineering department who, you know, might tend to be a little bit siloed and not as customer facing as they might be.
All right, well, with that, let's wrap this up. So the session was recorded. We're going to post it. You'll find the recording link on our Forge blog. We have our webinar series is extending into August. So we have 2 webinars planned on construction topics in August, and we're going to be diving into how our partners are helping customers manage construction sites remotely. So a very different shift from our topic today, but that next webinar will be in 2 weeks. You'll get a follow-up email from the session with a link to the recording, as well as a direct link to register for those August webinars. And this information is all on the Forge blog, which Sanjana has showing up on the screen right now. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Chris, for joining us today and sharing the great work that you guys have done and all of your insights. And thanks for the audience members. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.